This is ChangeMakers with Katie Gore, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
Today's ChangeMaker is Eugene Jones. Eugene is the CEO of the Atlanta Housing Authority, and he has 35 years of public housing leadership experience and is globally recognized as a turnaround expert. He's served about 4.5 years as the CEO of Chicago Housing Authority before coming to Atlanta. And right now he's working on his own book. Gene, welcome to ChangeMakers.
Thank you, Katie. I'm glad to be here.
Gene, you've got an impressive resume in public housing and you've worked in several major metropolitan cities. So tell me exactly, why did you choose Atlanta?
I think they had the similar issues that they had in Chicago. They had about 4 or 5 different CEOs in the last 5 years. They had a reserve level that needed to be drawn down, and they just need to move developments in a quicker way, a speedier way. And so I saw the opportunity. As you know, Katie, in our industry, when there's a new mayor, always a new mayor wants to have he or she's new staff and staff that they brought in and so forth. And so I just decided, this might be the great time to go ahead and cut my ties with Chicago Housing Authority and seek another opportunity. And so I'm here in Atlanta.
So when you arrived, there were a variety of articles that had been published in Atlanta talking about that leadership turmoil and even various lawsuits and stalled projects. So with all of those conditions, what was the first area that you started to tackle?
Well, I wanted to make sure that the morale was going to be boosted based on my experience. You know, a lot of staff members, they sit there and think about, well, who's coming in? Are they experienced? Can they move the agency? And can they make decisions? And so I wanted to tackle that first and make sure that everyone knows who I am and what I'm all about. But the first couple of things I had to do is make sure the staff was stable. I got a settlement agreement with Renee Glover, who was the former president and CEO of Atlanta Housing. And then I went after the settlement about Integral, about the development. And so we were both successful in those settlements. And I thought that was something that no one else could do but myself, being new and being obligated to Atlanta Housing to fix some of these things that have been out for such a long time.
So how are you trying to develop consensus for your goals, for the city or for the housing agency? And how are you going about doing that?
The best thing to do is communicate, meet with the public-private sector, meet with our partners. We have Beltline, we have Invest Atlanta, and also the city of Atlanta. And so we're all sitting down at the table together, strategizing about what we're doing about affordable housing because of the mayor's goal to replace or to provide 25,000 affordable housing. And so with those partnerships and the experience at the top and making decisions, I think that's how we're going to be successful here in the city of Atlanta. There's a lot of development going on. We have great public-private partnerships here in the city of Atlanta, Katie. And I think with the Beltline, with Invest Atlanta, with the city of Atlanta, and a great mayor, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, I think we have our direction. She's done this One Atlanta, trying to replace and provide new affordable housing in the city. And so we have a game plan, and that's what we're looking at. We're strategizing and we're communicating. And that's the best thing, that we know where all the resources are and that we're not doubling up and trying to triple over ourselves, trying to provide some housing.
You've mentioned several challenges and advantages that are specific to Atlanta. And I'm curious, what do you see as the biggest challenge in Atlanta as it relates to affordable housing?
I think one of the issues is that Atlanta Housing is the biggest landowner in the city of Atlanta. And so we do have a lot of vacant properties. We are now looking at the opportunities to sell our land for some developer or some community development corporation to build some affordable housing. I'm not going to give the land away for cheap. If you think you can build quicker than Atlanta Housing, then so be it. Then we want to be a partner. We just don't want to give an asset away, and we're not providing an investment opportunity for Atlanta Housing to incorporate affordable housing. That's what our board has been tasking staff to do, and we want to make sure that we keep building affordable housing. We also want to look at the opportunity on these HUD 221 D3s and D4s with these owners opting out. How can Atlanta Housing be put in a position where we can acquire those units so that we can maintain their affordability in this city? And so we're working with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development here, the regional office, and the local office. We have a great partnership with them. But affordable housing it's a growing concern. There's more need than they have inventory, and we will never probably provide needs for everyone. But with our example and the things that we've done positively here in this city and being a model for many, many years based on our predecessors, we hope that HUD at one point would sit there and say, hey, look, we have results. We have demonstrations. We have something that's tangible. We have tangible results. How can we use that to portray to the Congress that my colleagues out there across this country need additional resources in order to build the best mixed income developments and do these great public-private partnerships throughout this country? That's what we're looking forward to, and I think Atlanta is right there in the front of everyone.
Well, you guys definitely are. And I think it also helps to have the mayor, out there making affordable housing as one of her top priorities. So talk to us, because this is, sort of a tricky balance here. How do you go about working with elected officials and trying to expand affordable housing in that space? I mean, it's one thing to have the mayor say, this is in my priority, but how are you navigating within those political landmines, trying to build that consensus? It's just a difficult place for communities to find themselves.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But you got to come to the table, Katie, with credibility. And since I'm not from Atlanta, I'm not from Georgia, never lived in the South, only to the extent of New Orleans. A lot of people, as they look at my background and so forth, when I come to the table and I'm asking or I'm providing recommendations, suggestions, they do pay attention. And not to say everything is what they want to hear, but as you know, that I'm always transparent. And when they ask me a question, I'm always going to say how I feel professionally, because I don't try to sugarcoat anything. That's what wins me over, is that I'm going to say, hey, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense, but we can make this make sense if we do X, Y, and Z. And then based on our networking and opportunities and so forth all over the country, I can show them examples and pictures of what's worked across this country and so forth. I mean, with our trade association groups, the CLAFA, the NAROs, and the FADAs, we have examples. We can direct them to that and just prove to them that these things work. You have a great mayor, and you have city council, you have the congressional staff, and so forth. They have to see it. It's got to be tangible. You just can't talk a good game, and you're not providing anything that they can see, touch, and feel. And I think Atlanta has been in that forefront. And here's what we're building. We're building something you can see it. It's in the ground. It's going to be done. It's going to be done on budget. It's going to be done on time. When you have that chronic credibility, then people listen to you. And the politics, they don't go away, but you subside some of the politics because they know that something's going to get done. If you're a change agent, if you're someone that's going to fix something and get it done, they know it's going to get done.
Well, I like what you said, because, if politicians, community, neighbors, resident organization groups, whoever they are, if they can see it, you're right, then they can get behind it. And one of the most effective things to do is actually have people walk through communities, walk through developments, and just see the importance and how affordable housing can be such a contributor to the community. How do you blend your style here on what you want to accomplish with limitations of funding, limitations of staffing, limitations of, just 24 hours in the day?
I never think about limitations, Katie. I just don't. I think that's a challenge. When I was in Detroit, we had about 3 or 4 developments going on, but there was one place on the east side, and it's named Emerald Springs right now. No one thought we could ever redevelop this property. It was vacant. It's been vacant for about 5 or 6 years. When I was there from 2008 to 2012, it's been vacant. So someone challenged me, says, it's never going to be built here. We don't have any money. We just can't put it together. So I sat down and I figured it out. And we built Emerald Springs. I think it's between 200 and 250 units that no one thought we could build, that's in a neighborhood that needed that investment. It supported the school system around there because that place has been vacant for so long. And so it's those challenges when people say it can't be done. I mean, in Chicago, when someone said, mayor challenged us to say, hey, look, we need some new libraries here, but we also want to have public housing on top of that. How can we figure that out? So we sat down, my colleague Megan Hart, we sat down, we figured it out and said we can do this. But the main thing is going to HUD to get them to agree of something that's innovative, something different that's not in their queue, is how can we go outside of that and make it make sense, a community benefit for not only just for the community, but for the whole city and the whole neighborhood. And so Atlanta is somewhat similar. When people say that it can't be done or it's taking too long or something, I say, you know what, you need to start thinking differently. I'm not the kind of person who's going to put something up and 10 years later it looks like public housing or assisted housing all over again. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And plus the challenge is that we have to be very transparent. We're not trying to piss away any type of federal dollars. If you see my career around this nature, I was never over budget. I was always on budget. I was always on time. And we did everything in conjunction with the city and all the politicians and all the congressional staff, because I went there to show them what's being done. We took them hand by hand to say, hey, look, this is the fruits of your labor. I'm not the kind of person who likes to put myself out there in the middle and ribbon cutting and so forth. They forced me to do that. But what I'm trying to say is that because I'm not from the community, I'm doing this for the community. If I'm working in Atlanta, I work for Atlanta. If I worked in Detroit, I work in Detroit. But since I'm here in Atlanta, I'm doing everything I can to bring about not a change, but to be progressive and getting these developments done and being a legacy for the mayor and the city politicians.
When you left Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emanuel offered such a great high praise for your impact during your time there in Chicago. He said that your legacy was your ability to reinvent, rethink, and reimagine what a housing authority can be. We both know that a lot of us housing practitioners have to think outside the box to find solutions, but we often don't get praised for it. So, was it hard to leave Chicago?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I do miss Chicago. Chicago had a proliferation of things that we had to do, a lot of community support. Chicago Housing Authority, everyone knew the staff. So we turned the leaf that no one thought we could move forward. Because before I got there, it had not built anything that was new. They built maybe 46 units one year and probably 56 in the next year and so forth. And so they were just sitting there just waiting for this to blossom out and so forth. So we sat down, we got together and so forth. The mayor wasn't over my shoulder to say, hey, Gene, I want you to do X, Y, Z. He challenged me just like hey, if this is what you want to get done, this is what's going to get done. And so 54 city council people going to these ribbon cutting ceremonies. Now they see the momentum going. And so the staff, they have their bragging rights because now they see the fruits of their labor. It's a team environment. And once you have that team together and you're solid and everyone's staying there with the same type of goal and same type of initiative, that's how the success comes from everywhere I've been to, because it's a team environment. It's not Eugene Jones. I can't do anything by myself. I have to be with a great team, a great leadership, and being positive in what we're doing. Customer service is always tops on my list. You got to have good customer service. You got to talk to the residents. If you don't like talking to residents, that's not the business to be in. If you don't like getting out, being from behind your desk and walking these properties, walking them at night, talking to the residents, that's not the kind of job they have. You're not going to be successful because residents are not going to believe in you.
Mm-hmm. Two things you touched on here. One is specific to your leadership style. And many people look up to you as a leader nationally, within the industry, not just within the organization that you're running. And they look up to you more than just a housing official. You've been called to testify in front of Congress. One of the many areas of success you've been able to demonstrate is just how you can motivate people within the agency to get them to do the things, to think about the libraries partnered with housing or whatever that initiative is. You've got such a unique ability to do that. So how are you leading and motivating people and sustaining them at this pace?
I don't have a big ego. I know what power means. And a lot of people who are in the positions I have. And so typically when someone goes into an agency like I've been, they'll want to turn up the whole agency. They'll want to fire this person, move this person around. I don't go that route. But I go in there, I sit down, and I listen to the staff. I tell the staff, the senior staff, I said, we have a bar to reach. And I raise the bar, and this is where you have to go. All those who don't want to get to this goal, it's not personal, but this is business. So you have to come up to this level. I will give you all the resources to get there, but you have to get there. That means training. You need opportunity. You need resources. I look at the budget. Talk to our finance staff and whomever, and we sit there, okay, here's what we're going to do, first, second, and third. And so then another key to my management style is I meet with all the staff. We have quarterly meetings with all of the staff. And what my senior leadership team always gets upset because I never have an agenda. The agenda is in my head and I write it down to myself, but I don't share it with anyone because I don't want anyone to know what's coming before them. And we talk about a proliferation of things. I want to tell them things before the news gets to them and gets out and everyone in the news knows, but no one internally knows. And we talk. I tell them honestly, they ask me questions. I say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so I let those egos and all those other types of barriers and say, hey, look, I'm just like you. I could be in public and assisted housing tomorrow. I said, but by virtue of just being, something happening, just like this pandemic now that's going on and so forth. I said, because I've been humbled. I've been humbled a couple of times. I'm here to do a job. I'm not here to put my name in the paper or see my picture in the paper or anything like that. That's what you guys do. I'm too old to go through that anymore. There's no bragging rights for me. All I want to do is be successful and show the staff, here's how you can be successful. I don't micromanage anyone. I let them manage. I said, hey, look, you're here to do a job. If it takes you 2 hours to do the job today and 16 hours tomorrow, then so be it. I said, but the job has to be done. And so we sit down, we talk about evaluations and so forth. So I put everything out there in front and say, here's where we're going to go. Well, salaries are low or whatever the case might be. Okay, now we're going to tell the staff, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be very transparent. Here's what we can do. Here's what we cannot do. And here's what we're going to try to work on. So I keep them in the loop of everything that's going on in the agency. So no one can say that we did not know. Everyone's going to know. And you have to be plain and simple. You can't be some egotistical egomaniac and say, hey, because I'm the president CEO, I can do whatever I want. I can command you to do that. That's not how you're going to be successful. You have credibility. You got to show credibility not only from the public, the staff, from the mayor. You got to have credibility from HUD. And they know, who you are and what you've been doing and so forth. And they look at your career and they just know. They could talk amongst themselves. They can tell you if Eugene Jones is somewhere, Eugene Jones, whatever your issues are, he's going to be able to fix it.
Well, it sounds like that you've actually been able to just be really open and setting the bar and the expectations and then giving them feedback. And I think that is, lacking sometimes in private and public organizations, is to say, here's the goal. Here are a variety of ways to get there. And now here's feedback on what is lacking in those areas. And so you're blending all of that together.
There's no secret to my madness. I try to teach the young people. I say, hey, look, you don't have to be like Eugene Jones. You can tweak my skills, but I'm just going to let you know I've been successful. I'm always going to be transparent. If you want to learn, I'll teach you. If you think you're better than me, then so be it. I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit there and worry about someone toppling my administration because they feel like they're smarter and whatever the case may be. My success is people who leave my agency and become successful EDs or whatever they want to be. That's a tribute to what we've done as a team, and I'm fine with that. Those are bragging rights for me.
Mm-hmm. One of the areas of success is you've been labeled as one of the turnaround and recovery experts. And Quadell and you and I have both, had multiple experiences in turning around agencies that for whatever reason, were floundering. What is the process of coming into a crumbling situation and having to put all those pieces back together? What's that look like for you?
Katie, you got to go in with confidence. You have to, not every place is the same. Everything is relative, but the staff is different from everywhere that you go. And so you have to go in with confidence. You have to show the staff, say, hey, look, you may not have the right leader or the right person in that position, but we're going to sit there and make this work. But we all got to be in this together from the senior level all the way to the middle manager. I've always experienced and always told the senior leadership, it says, if you don't get to the middle managers and get the information to them, they can make and break an agency overnight. And so when you teach them and when you sit there and you got to live by your examples. Whatever you say and whatever you do, you got to live by it. You got to stick out your neck. A lot of people won't stick out their neck because the president CEO won't support them. I say it this way, you know what? I've stuck my neck out many a time, but the one thing that always to my credit, I always documented everything. Whomever came in as an auditor, they'll say, well, you know what? I don't like your method of doing it, but you have documented the reasons why you've done everything. And being with the OIG at HUD, I've learned a lot being an auditor and how you document things and so forth and use the regulations for you in your endeavors of why you do certain things and why you don't do certain things. And I try to teach people that here's how HUD is looking at this. If HUD OIG is coming here, here's what you're going to have to do this. Those types of things. And so, and I look at the OIG sites and I look at all those audit reports and so forth. And if I see there's an issue at my agency, I'll send it to the staff member and say, hey, look, read this. We don't want to mirror this.
Right. Well, I want to get into the pandemic, but we've got to stop right here. So coming up in part 2 of my talk with Eugene Jones, the CEO of the Atlanta Housing Authority, Gene tells us what he thinks the affordable housing community's response has been, and he takes a look at the COVID pandemic as it affects affordable housing.
Hopefully, Congress is going to understand the value of housing. As you know, in our experiences, every time there's a political campaign, anything to do with politics, housing is never on the top 5 list. It's always the top 20.
Thanks for listening to ChangeMakers with Katie Gore. To find out more about Katie, go to quadell.com. That's QUADL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.